What's going on, brother? You're wondering how is it that the flat earth would change anything? This is a question I get a lot, so let's do that. Many people stuck in between the truth and the lie often ask this question. They say, what does it matter if the earth is flat or round? I still have to go to work. My mom is still needing health care. Kids still need to go to school. The shape of the earth does not affect any of these things. What does affect these things is the parasites who are running the earth. To help you better understand this fight, I'm going to point out a few different things to you. The very first thing that I want to ask you, do you know all of the technology that exists? Do you think that the people have the same technology as the government? Most people are aware that the government's extremely advanced compared to the people. They have technology that you will never see. Fortunately, you, your mother, and your children will all be paying taxes to develop these technologies that you will never see or use. So what if there is technology that the government is suppressing that would stop you from having to go to work every day? What if there was technology that the government's suppressing that would better help the healthcare system of our world? What if the wisdom the government is hiding would help your children to develop a better future? All of these things are being suppressed by the globe model. You are paying taxes for them to develop technology that you will never see. This technology would change the world, and this technology is leaking out to the public. It's making the government look awful. Did you know that they could be converting all of the plastic that they're dumping into the oceans into fuel? That's right, they don't do it because they run the big oil companies. Did you know that these big oil companies are responsible for the pharmaceutical company? Almost all of the pharmaceuticals that anybody ever takes are all oil-based products. They're not selling you a cure. They're selling you a very cheap band-aid that's going to make matters worse. Did you know that they have a 3D printer that could print entire apartment complexes in 2 days using the garbage from the dumps? Did you know that there's a simple device that you could add to your car that would give you 80, 90 miles to the gallon? None of these things are being used by the government to make your life easier. In fact, they are suppressing them because they want to make your life harder. So how is the globe lie affecting your life? It's giving you cancer, it's giving you high cost of living, giving you inflated gas prices, it is giving you the struggle in which you described in your comment. All of the things in which we all struggle would disappear if we simply knew the truth. If all of the technology that exists were available to the public, our lives would change overnight. If we continue to pretend like it doesn't matter that the government is lying to control every aspect of your life, we are getting exactly what we deserve, because silence is consent. And I simply cannot consent to the enslavement of humanity. I do not give my authority to these parasites, and neither should you. We are all in this together. It's high time we start acting like it. I love ya. Okay, so this person here seems to think that this statement he made is only logical on a flat earth. He's completely ignoring the fact that on his model, his mountains are also much closer to the sun. A sun that in his model is a burning ball of gas. As you get closer to the burning ball of gas, it would heat you up, meaning your mountains would be hotter than the ground. So why is it not like this? Well, that would be because the sun is not a ball of gas. The sun actually works by moving the molecules around with its electromagnetic frequency to heat the molecules. Because the ground's molecules are much more dense and sturdy, they don't move as easy. They get heat transfer from the air around them. Because air gets more dense, the farther down you go, there is a lot more heating of this air going on. The more heating of the air, the more heat transfer to the ground. That is why the outside warms up before the ground does. But you could never explain any of that on your globe. You could never explain why when you get closer to this heating ball of gas, it gets colder. I can easily explain how the higher up you go, the colder it gets if the sun is not a ball of gas. If the sun works by warming molecules, then that is explainable, which your ball Earth does not have. You guys think you're smart with questions like that, and you're not, because you're completely ignoring the fact that that would have to happen on your globe too. You mix your model with ours and go, how does this work? Because you're not capable of actually unlearning everything the government has taught you to actually learn what's going on. Your statement proves you're not on a globe. It proves the sun is not a ball of gas. And it proves that most of you out there just like to squawk without actually learning or thinking about the things you are squawking about. And that's just what it is. Alright, quick question. Do you know that the government is not your friend? Are you aware that they are poisoning your food, water, air, and even your mind? Of course you do. You're not living under a rock. You might think you're spinning around on one. But you know better than to trust the government. Yet somehow, many of us still believe the government when they tell us the Earth is a spinning space rock. Many of us are too caught up in the science fiction of outer space that we don't even stop to think about the technologies that our government is suppressing. What do you think would happen to the world if the technology the government is suppressing was to be released? And exactly how are we going to get them released? The answer is simple. The government is lying and we caught them. But many of the people have Stockholm Syndrome and they're not ready to admit that the government is in fact lying to them. Those people absolutely are responsible for keeping the suffering system going. So if you are out there defending the globe for whatever reason, you are responsible for cancer. You are the reason why children are going to bed hungry. Also, you could chase balls in space. Get real. It's actually pretty pathetic to see some of you grown men chasing these space balls you're never going to get a ride on. Please do continue your fantasy. Not like people are suffering or anything. Not like revealing this lie would change the world or anything. Not like the technology the government's hiding from you would change anything. I guess the thought of you riding around on these space balls is just too enticing for you to think about other people. I guess you're just mesmerized by the balls they dangle in your face. Don't forget to cup them. Those of you who are sympathetic for those suffering on Earth, please look into Flat Earth. This one lie would reveal the entire world's governments for exactly what they are. All of the world's problems would be corrected if we got the world's leaders out of office. Research Flat Earth will change everything. I love ya. I absolutely love this statement. Globe Earthers, we are not your enemies. You can maintain your belief that the Earth is a globe and just understand that it's not the size they are telling us. Please prove me wrong. The world needs you to look into this. Silence is consent. It is beyond obvious that they are lying. Anybody can see that. It is up to us to expose the truth. Flat Earth, bigger globe, hollow Earth. Any of these things are possible. Current globe model is wrong. If it's bigger, they're hiding land from you. If it's flat, they are hiding land from you. If it is hollow, they are hiding land from you. Just think about it for a second. They are poisoning the air, food, and water in the known world. Wouldn't it make sense that these people would have land that they don't tell us about? Land that they go to escape the poisons they're putting in our environment. Please just think about it. Think of the possibilities of exposing this lie. Think of the hidden technology. Think of a unified humanity. Just think. That's all it takes. I love ya. Hey, are you ready to see the tyrannical government system collapse? Are you one of the few people who understand that the world is not doing the best that it could? That if we remove the parasites running the world, we will, in fact, change the world. So how do we do it? How do we reveal the monsters for what they are? The answer is simple. We catch them in a lie. And it just so happens that all of the world's governments are in on one massive lie. And revealing this lie would change everything. All of the suppressed medical technology would be revealed. All of the advanced energy technology would be revealed. I want to give you the ammunition you need to know for a fact that the government is lying to you. So let's do that. What you see behind me is the Pythagorean's proof of a ball Earth. This chart breaks down the amount of curvature per mile. As globe Earthers, 8 inches per mile squared is a fine formula to use to prove the Earth is not a ball. Every single one of you are capable of proving that there is no curvature. This alleged ball we live on is nowhere in sight. What I want to do today is I want to focus on this number here, 50 miles. This chart here shows how many feet of curvature at how many miles. 50 miles on a globe Earth would be 1,667 feet of curvature. What that means, any object that is 50 miles away from you would be 1,667 feet beneath your field of vision. Put that into perspective for you, the Willis Tower in Chicago is 1,450 feet tall. What that means is that 50 miles away, the Willis Tower would be 200 feet beneath the curve, making it completely invisible from this distance. This building right here is the Willis Tower. It is the tallest building in all of Chicago. This photo here was taken from Michigan, 56 miles away. Now, globe earthers will argue that this is a mirage. They will either call this a mirage or they will say, look, you can't see the cars in that photo. They say that while they completely ignore the fact that this building right here should be 200 feet beneath the curve. The distance in which this photograph was taken, every single one of these buildings should have been behind the Earth's curve. You should not have been able to see any of these buildings, let alone the tallest one. Shorter buildings right here are under 1,000 feet. What that means is an observer able to see these buildings would have to be 200 feet above the water. Do these photos look like the observer is 200 feet above the water? Just look at them. This kind of proof right here does not require NASA. It does not require the government. All it requires is for you to have a little bit of determination and you will see the truth. This photo right here is impossible on a globe. It is not even the longest distance photo ever taken. According to the globe, the horizon in this picture should be 3 miles away. 3 miles. And yet somehow you can see the entire skyline. Wakey wakey. I love ya. So, you're wondering about the Michael Morley experiment, are ya? Alright, let's do that. So the globe enthusiast will often cite the Michael Morley experiment for proof that the Earth is a ball. They say because there was no measurable change in the speed of the lights, that this only can mean that the Earth is a spinning rock. Yeah, that's right. These people use an experiment that proves the lack of motion to prove the Earth is in fact moving. But anybody with 2 brain cells and a thought can come to the conclusion that an experiment that proves no motion does not prove any motion. So let's do a little background on this experiment, shall we? During the Michael Morley experiment, they took a beam of light and they split this beam using a silver mirror. Half of the light went in one direction and the other half went in the other. They then had another reflective surface that recombined these lights back at the source. If one of the light beams changed speeds, you would see an interference pattern back at the source. But there was no interference pattern. And because there was no interference pattern, this proved undoubtedly that the Earth is not moving. In fact, this experiment was done to prove the Earth is moving through the ether. They did this experiment because they knew that the ether existed. They were using this ether to draw free energy back in Nikola Tesla's time, back when the ridiculous theory of relativity was being born. In fact, the theory of relativity was born because of this experiment. This experiment proved beyond any argument that the Earth is not moving. This is why Albert Einstein had to come up with the theory of relativity. They needed to invent an explanation for why light traveling that way travels at the same speed as light traveling that way if the Earth is in fact moving. But instead of them admitting that they were wrong about the motion of the Earth, they invented the theory of relativity to clean up their mess. And because this theory of relativity cannot be tested, proved, repeated, or experimented with, it is in fact pseudoscience. And because we know the ether does exist and we are able to draw power from this ether, there is only one conclusion to draw from this experiment. The Earth is not moving. It's that simple. That is exactly what this experiment proved. But the people who were performing this experiment were a lot like the globe earthers now, and they were incapable of admitting they were wrong. Instead of admitting they were wrong, they furthered their deception by inventing the theory of relativity. The only thing the globe people have interest in is deceiving you. They do not want you to know you're a beautiful creation. They do not want you to know you are made with purpose, love, and intention. They want you to believe you're nothing but an evolved monkey. It's through this belief in which humanity is lost. How could you ever be found if not to be lost? Wakey wakey. I love ya. Things you didn't know you believed. Part 1. If you believe that you are spinning around on a space rock, and you believe that an airplane is traveling faster sideways than the direction it is traveling. That's right. As you are traveling 450 miles an hour northbound from Mexico to Washington, you have to believe that your airplane is traveling 963 miles an hour sideways. Let that sink in for a minute. In the globe model, it is mandatory that an airplane traveling north or south has to travel faster east than in the direction it is traveling. I do not want you thinking about this, but I do. I want you to think about how gravity can pull an airplane faster than the engines on the airplane that were designed to overcome gravity. A jet engine gets an airplane into the air. It is defying gravity. And yet somehow the gravity of the Earth is strong enough to pull this airplane sideways at 1,000 miles an hour. And you believe that. That is, of course, unless if you have woken up to the truth. This is a wake-up call. This nonsense goes against all of your common sense, logic, and reason. This is why common sense is not common. They taught you to not trust your senses. And therefore people threw their common sense out the window. Wakey wakey. I love ya. Alright, Globe Earthers, I have a challenge for you. Since you believe there are thousands of photos of Earth, go ahead and pick out which one you think is real. Which one of these wonderful works of art represents the place you call Earth? Is it this one? Is it that one? Definitely that one. You could tell this one's real because of how fake it looks. Here's all of NASA's photos of Earth. Go ahead and pick one of NASA's photos that you believe is an actual picture of your home. Is it this one? About that one? What about these tell you they are real? Is it because we would have way better CGI if we were faking it? You know what I think? I think that NASA purposely makes it so obvious that they are lying because they are laughing and mocking those of you who blindly believe them, who are the laughing stock of the world. This one here is all Southern Hemisphere nighttime. Look at that one, guys. Any of you will not admit that you've been lied to because you believe you see real photos of the Earth. You somehow see these images and come to the conclusion that these must be real. This one here is really gray. This one here is really green. Any of you say that it's all brown because when you're so far away it just contrasts with the dirt. You obviously forget those photos exist. So let's see which one of these you believe is real. Isn't the Earth supposed to be pear-shaped? Oh yeah, it's just a little wider at the equator. Last question I have for you about this BS model. Isn't the Earth supposed to be tilted? And if the Earth is supposed to be tilted, why does the equator line run straight across? I mean, you really think that the equator's hotter because it bulges towards the sun. But you explain that your equator line and all of your time zones do not follow the tilt of the Earth. I guess somebody forgot that when they were photoshopping the Earth. Or again, maybe they're just laughing at you. Maybe the elite are getting a real kick out of this. Maybe they enjoy watching you be fooled to the point that you would resist those people trying to help you. Maybe they've convinced you to use your free will to identify as the body. And maybe identifying as the body keeps you trapped here on Earth. You are an eternal being. You have free will. If you use your free will to identify with this nonsense, you are nothing more than an evolved monkey spinning around on a space rock. It's not until you use your free will to identify with the spirit within that you will finally be free. You will finally find out just how beautiful you really are. Just exactly how ridiculous it is to believe any of that. Wakey wakey. I love ya. So, you've been waiting since you were 7 years old to see the images from the James Webb Telescope. Definitely not trying to single you out, so please do not take it that way. Just find the statement here to be pretty ironic. I say that because the 7-year-old kid in you is lacking discernment when looking at this photo. Again, please do not take this personal. I'm simply trying to get people to realize that they are mesmerized by this nonsense because of their inner child. Because NASA is appealing to the child in you, you are not capable of seeing this photo for what it is. This is awful. It is so obviously not what they are telling us. Do you see that word right there? It says image credit from NASA. Did you know that an image is any visual object that's modified or altered by a computer, or it's an imaginary object created using a computer? They do not call it a photograph. Photographs are anything taken by a camera, digital camera, or photocopier. So basically what they are telling you in their description here is that this is an imaginary object created by a computer. It is an image, and images are not photos. They are computer altered and often imaginary. Sure, some people do say it's a photo. The heliocentric gods of NASA are calling them images. They say it seemingly looks like a picture. In reality, it's nothing more than an image. NASA did not use the word picture here and image here by an accident. They're well aware of the definitions of these two words. They're just hoping that you aren't. They want the inner child in you to just simply look over the details of this image. You know, like a blue sky in space, or somehow seeing these stars that are trillions of miles away through this nebula that is trillions of miles across. You can't see the sun that is much closer than these stars through a cloud that is much smaller than this nebula. We could look light years into the past and see these stars. Come on, man. Better than this. And by the way, you are not old enough to be my dad. Just so happen to age pretty well. Lucky me. You are, however, old enough to be my friend. Just because we do not agree on what we are seeing here does not make us each other's enemies. I'd like to ask you personally to please start respecting the people who have a different opinion than you. It's through the difference in opinions in which your globe model went from being a stationary Earth in the middle of the universe to the Earth orbiting the sun that was stationary to the model we have today. Globe model is ever changing because of questioning. That's because everybody blindly accepts this model for what it is. Try to change your perspective on what you think the people who are calling out to the globe model are trying to do. You're only trying to learn the truth of this realm we call Earth, which will only happen with a unified humanity. So please don't be a dividing tool. I love you.